Everybody watching from afar and watching right here. Today, we're going to try to fix my piano. And this is our shop piano. This is the piano that like all of our technicians, we practice on and do stuff. But this piano is fairly new to us. So the Samick, I joke around like, oh, just Samick 4 foot nothing. I think it's a SG 140C. So it's just their shortest piano. I think it's literally maybe 5 foot, maybe 4'7". And these can be fairly decent pianos, but we got this piano just to really work on and have fun with. And so what I did is I had one of our technicians, I said, hey, just go ahead and just start to voice it. And so he spent like a good hour and a half voicing it. And he's like, these are really hard hammers. This is really rough. I think he broke like 4 or 5 needles in it. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll come when I get back in town. I'm going to go and play it. And so when I came back to play it, I'm like, it's still so bright. And just so you all can kind of hear. Is that coming through for you all? Can you hear that? So this is, yeah. Robert, what do you think of that?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I kind of prefer bright sound. So it is bright, but my preference is brighter. But yeah, it is.
Yeah. It's one of those things too that like there's no one size fits all for this. But like what Robert said, this is definitely on the brighter side. But for a lot of customers, they're going to be like, oh no, it's totally fine. Leave it as is. What you're not hearing though is how loud our space is. And so for us, we're just going to go ahead and cut down on the sound. And I'm a little bit nervous because I even brought in all of my like just randoms just to be like, okay, we're gonna, between all of these, we're gonna make some different. So today we're gonna be working on needling. There's when we talk about voicing, I can sometimes get a little bit ahead of myself and be like, oh, we're talking about voicing down. But voicing is a very broad term. Voicing or tone regulation is simply the manipulation of the hammer density. That's really what it boils down to. And there's a lot of ways to do that. We're able to bring the tone up by hardening that felt, or in this case, bring the tone down and soften the sound, in which case we're going to be using a technique called needling. Now, depending on the piano, and we've gone over some of this before, but depending on the piano, they're going to be more responsive than others when you start to needle the hammers. This piano in particular is more of your entry level, not the nice word for it, more of the entry level, kind of made in China kind of piano. And so this is going to be something that's built at a price point. And one of the things that you're going to notice, with pianos like this is they're trying to get the pianos built and produced and in people's houses, which I love the idea of having pianos in people's houses. But some of the things that they do is maybe use a little bit cheaper parts, materials, processes. And one of the things is in the hammers. In the hammers themselves, there's just not as much care and attention to detail. So there's a lot more, like glue in here. There's a lot more it's just not as a fine-tuned hammer. And so with that being the case, these are typically very hard and very dense. And so there may be processes that I don't know of where you can go ahead and actually soak these particular type hammers in, say, some kind of a solution to kind of open up that felt a little bit more and create a little bit less density. I haven't heard of anything that people are like, I love this, use this. But until that happens, one great solution that you can do is actually doing the needling, which is what we're going to be doing today. I typically will have 2 to 3 of these going on any given time, but I generally will use just this needling tool. So this is just a single needling tool. It's got some weight to it. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend them. I like having the single needle just because I feel like it's very versatile. I'm not going to overdo it too quick. This was the tool that I think the technician was using that we broke some of the needles. If you can see that, it kind of is. I don't know. It kind of looks like it's giving you the middle finger. Sorry, but it's just kind of one of those things that you have to replace these needles fairly frequently. They do wear, like, show some wear over time, and they do get. I don't know if they became more brittle, but they just kind of get more worn and they start to break. Usually there's a series of screws, as you can see here, that has like an Allen wrench, and you would use a teeny tiny Allen wrench to go ahead and replace those. So typically this will have 3 larger needles poking out about maybe a 1/4 inch at the max. So again, I'll have my single needling tool, the triple needling tool with them poking out quite a bit. And then finally, I like this needling tool. I believe this is a Japanese style. And this is nice because I like having the needles really fairly shallow. These are maybe poking out less than 1/8 of an inch. And there's 3 needles, as you can see. And I kind of like to do this as kind of my, sugar coating, just kind of over the surface. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this really quick and just see what kind of process we need to get into. Do we need to go into more of a intense process where we're just going for it, or are we going to kind of wade into the shallow ends? Let's just listen to it. So we're kind of all over the map here.
Yeah, some of those didn't come through. I don't know about y'all, but they were a little hard to hear on the upper register, like the streaming.
Are they? Is that coming through? Is that coming through right there, Stace? Yeah, I'm wondering if it's the decibel level. It's like, no, it's too much.
Yeah, it's starting to come through.
Okay, so what I'm noticing is that we're kind of all over the map here. Now, I did kind of already go through and surface the hammers really lightly. I did leave a little bit. I'm going to twist that over a little bit. There are some string indentations, just the shadow of them still there. So I have a roadmap to follow so that I'm going to go ahead and do a quick pass of my soft pedal voicing. Can somebody give me the rundown of how we do soft pedal voicing? Does anybody remember? It's okay if not. The concept behind that. Look at this. We got 2 actions here. How solid is this? So with soft pedal voicing, obviously we have the hammers that hit the strings at certain points. Now, what we're going to be doing at soft pedal voicing is hitting in between, straight down, in between those string groups or those indentations, because we want to break up the felt around it first. That's a great first step, and it's something that I feel like we should do that initially to this piano. Now, I was looking all over the place for my nifty block that I usually have, and I couldn't find it. So it's either at a customer's house or it's in a drawer somewhere. So I'm just using this kind of little dowel, metal dowel piece, just to kind of brace my hammer. And I like doing that just so that I'm not putting too much excess pressure and strain on the flanges and any other parts. So I'm just going to quickly go through. I see these indentations. I'm going to go straight down like so. And so I'm also going to look right here. I want to make sure that I'm looking and saying how many bichords versus trichords are there, because I just want to double check. And sure enough, in this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bichords right in this mid section. And so I'm going to kind of account for that. So I see those 2 grooves, sure enough, and then it goes into the 3. So I'm just going to go straight down. And I like to do 1 puncture in between each of those groups. Now, other technicians and mentors of mine have said, you know, hey, you can kind of go further, go more. Wow, you saw that. Can you see that very well? They're so dense. I literally like broke off a piece right there in it. So that was what? It's like 4 in. There's a, well, I fixed this. I'll do story time. Not really story time because I didn't make the story. But there's that movie like Armageddon back in the 90s, and they go to this asteroid to try to blow it up, and they get to the hard, dense part of the asteroid. And they're like, all right, we got to do this no matter what. I feel like this is that. And they're like 2 feet into it, and they start breaking drill bits. This is that. This is Armageddon right now. This is the asteroid headed to Earth that's made out of Wolverine's bones or something. Anyways, I digress. I'm going to go for this one right here. Where is this? I'm going to go with this guy today right here because it has a little bit more weight to it. Again, you can see the design difference right here. So this one actually, you can order these shaft, both kinds, but there's a little bit more weight to it. I actually am using a slightly thicker needle on here as well. You can get different thicknesses of needles, and for this one right here, we're actually using a slightly thicker needle. I know the question you're going to ask is like, what size or thickness of needles do you like? And I'm like, I knew that was probably going to be a question. They're in different bags, and I don't have the bags in front of me to show you. People feel free to comment with your favorite needle sizes. Hold on, I'm going to go grab something really quick.
I had no idea there were different sizes. I just bought a pack from Howard.
I have whatever's in my tools right now, so and my spares. I don't know what the size. I just have what my bag of spare needles is. I don't know what size it is.
I know. Well, sometimes you get technicians that really want to geek out and play in the sandbox, and they're like, "What thickness size do you use?" And I use a 0.0958 millimeters and this and that. I'm like, whoa, I do not know. So mine come in a little bag, and I make it work. So some of my mentors, over the years have said, try it first with a single needle. But the nice thing about this tool is, like I said, you can have three different needles in it. And I've done this before, where instead of just doing one single puncture in between the grooves, I've gone through and gently rolled and punctured all 3 needles in between the string grooves if I really want to make a big difference. So that's something that people will do as well. Instead of using just the single needling tool to puncture in between those string grooves, you can actually go for it and use that triple needle tool and hit in between the string grooves as well. Now, all this being said, I believe Supply 88 has them in stock. I could be wrong, but they have a great voicing tool right now. And it has like a series. I believe they're all in a row of needles, and it's a kind of a wooden voicing tool handle with a bunch of these. Wow, you can feel just that density with these needles inside of them. And that is a great tool for doing this. Does anybody have that by chance?
I have that. I can go get it here.
Love to, yeah, if we show what it looks like in person, that'd be awesome, just to show everybody. I'm going to be down in Phoenix next week, and I'm going to hopefully go pick one up from Mark and Dawn. So just quickly going through and puncturing in between each groove. The technician that was doing this asked me, because he broke a needle in it. He says, "How do I get these out? What's your process for that?" And I said, well, what I try to do is just simply grab some like needle nose pliers or some end nippers and just pull it out. Try not to take away too much of that felt. And he says, well, what happens in cases where you just can't do it without like really ripping up that felt? My answer to him, I don't know if this is the end all be all, but it was simply push it down as far as you can, because sometimes that's all I've been able to do. That was a recommendation by another technician, and I'm like, well, I guess if you're gonna have a needle in there, it's better to kind of push it all the way down so where it's never really gonna hit anything, versus trying to tear up all that felt to remove that needle. Has anybody broken needles in the hammers yet?
I've not done enough, but I've broken a
I
needle.
have.
Here's that tool, David. My only recommendation is put the cap on before you reach in the bag to get it out if it's upside down. Because I've
So
got.
are all the needles okay? Maybe put your hand up on the back of it just so we can see the needles. Yeah.
Oh, hello.
I'm just trying to see. Yeah, there you go.
Got 2 rows.
So 2 rows. Okay. So that
So it's
tool
got
would be
6.
great.
So there's 12 small needles there. 2 rows, 12 small needles.
Okay. So that would be that ideal tool for doing what we're probably going to end up doing at the very end, which is just kind of breaking up that top layer of density. It doesn't look like those are protruding too far, right? Those what, 1/8 inch max?
Yes.
Those needles, Robert, are they sticking out about an 1/8
Yeah.
inch?
Yeah, I'd say an 1/8 is right. And they're about a 1/4 inch apart. So 2 rows of 6, a 1/4 inch apart, and 1/8 inch out.
I see. So that actually made a pretty big difference. So I usually kind of use this area as my guide. I'm kind of playing around, testing out stuff. I'm like, okay, that single needling tool that I was using right here was just using one needle, just one puncture straight down into the crown, but in between the string grooves did make a fairly big difference. For me, I like a really kind of darker, more melodic sound. So I'm going to kind of keep this going by doing that angel shot voicing. Now, we've talked about this before, and there's some debate within the industry. Some people call it angle shot, some people call it angel shot. I like the idea of angel. I don't know why. And so I'm just going to simply go to that back end and go back like that. So I'm seeing the light indentations. I'm going at the very back end of it, and I'm just simply kind of going backwards like this. Questions about this? Because Justin, with your new piano, you're probably going to do this process.
I need to do it on all my other pianos I have too.
Yeah, it's one of those things that.
This one you're going where the string groove
now
is,
that
right?
I'm kind of investigating, that's correct. I'm going right where the string grooves is, but on the very back end of it, on the tail end of it, and I'm just going. Boy, I would say that this is at about a 45 degrees. So that being said, let's kind of show you it from this angle. So this is how the hammer is, and as it stands, I'm blocking it up, so that it's about like this. And where I'm going with this angle, let's see what note am I on? G sharp. So I'm going roughly at this angle. So that is, if I'm guessing, roughly 45 degrees. So if this is at perfect 90, right? So looking at this parallel right here, it's parallel with the floor. See that? And then this is straight up and down, so that's my 90 degree. I'm probably coming at this from this about a 45. Does that make sense? So I'm coming at it from about like that. But I'm coming at that back side. So that's about, and that's what I show all of our technicians. That was the way it was taught to me. And this is the way I've done it out in the field. And I've had really pretty good results from it. People are usually really surprised with how much of a difference just a couple 5-10 minutes can make on the way that their action or way that their piano sounds. But yes, Justin's on the back side of it. I'm using those little string indentations as my guide to see not only where the strings are, kind of how far back they go. I'm just simply going back. When you're working on pianos like this, and when they're kind of at this quality level, unfortunately, you're gonna feel that hammer density, that you're gonna feel it in the needle, and you're gonna feel it kind of break up as you're doing this. And so sometimes, once you get to the point where you're more and more proficient at it, you're just gonna know, okay, this hammer feels soft or harder than the last one. I'm gonna go ahead and break it up. Oh, and now it's feeling a lot looser. As I'm puncturing this needle in, it feels kind of crusty, like somebody's voiced this, like added lacquer to this in the past. I don't know if that's the case. We got this used on kind of like a Facebook marketplace, kind of Craigslist deal. But again, what I'm noticing is that the little bit of work that we've already done so far is making a fairly big difference. It's sounding a lot better. So this leads me to think the technician that was doing the voicing, phenomenal tech, not as much experience doing the voicing. And what I found with technicians that are not as experienced, they're usually a little bit more timid. And so what I'm finding is, I'm guessing that he was maybe, and properly so, he was probably going a little bit lighter, maybe a little bit more carefully, puncturing the fouts, maybe not going as deep. Because what I'm noticing is with this little bit that I'm doing right here, we're getting a fairly good sound to it. It's sounding a lot better. Now I want to take it to that like last level. And so let's just show you right here. Here's the before, or excuse me, here's more of the before. So it's starting to kind of mellow and get a little bit more pleasant. A customer the other day said something that really that just, I was kind of taken aback because I've never heard this term, because I was explaining, hey, we can round out the tone, make it softer. She's like, oh, you're going to be able to make it gentler for me, like a gentler sound. And I'm like, that's such a great, simple word, a gentle sound. Make it more gentle for her, because her piano it was bright, it was abrasive, it was harsh, and she loved the idea of making it gentler. And so that's what we did. And I love that term for it, because I don't know if Stacey, have you heard that term before used in this? I want a gentler tone.
I love it.
I think it's
a great voicing cool, like vocab to throw in the bucket, because gentle. Yeah, I've heard warm. I've heard softer, more mellow, gentle. I like that.
Yeah. And so just so that we kind of get the whole gamut, I'm now going to go with this guy. So this is this Japanese style. By the way, this is a really nice voicing tool because of the design. This voicing tool is designed to make it so that you don't break as many needles. And the way it's done, the theory behind it, let's just say that. The theory behind it is you have the connecting point here in this needle, right, fairly close to the top. You can see that it's cinched down right here, whereas in this one, it's cinched down way over here. And right up here, there's a little bit of movement. So the theory behind it is, at least as it was told to me, was that this is able to kind of move and not have the pressure point right at the top, but it's held down here so it can move a little bit more freely and is less inclined to breaking. I have found that to be the case. I seem to break far fewer needles whenever I'm using this guy. Yeah, I'm not an engineer. I'm sure our engineer people can kind of explain it better than I, but all I can say is from my experience in using this, I do seem to break fewer needles. That being said, I always have them kind of chucked pretty low on this one as opposed to my single needle ones. But just a fun fact when you go looking for your voicing tools. So I've gone ahead and braced up this section right here, and I want to go and just give it a really gentle sound. I'm not worried for my sake about over voicing this piano. So what I'm going to be doing is just break out the entire density of this top layer, because I want to be able to have a soft tone, but then I want, and that's going to be achieved in this case by me breaking up the top few layers of this felt, but below it's still that hardened core. And so by doing that on kind of normal or softer blows, I'm getting that soft sound, but when I really punch it, it's packing down into that harder felt, and it's giving me more pizzazz and more of an intense sound that I want. So I'm simply just going through, and I don't know why the number 12 seems like it seems to be where I land. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know. I always do 12. And it's like with the triple needle right here, I'm going to do 12 little blows. I'm not even going to, I would say that I'm not even going down all the way with these. Let me just kind of, yeah, I'm probably going halfway to maybe 3/4 of the way of that. Let me see if we can get that. You can't really see it. Yeah. So I'm not going that deep into this. And I'm just breaking up that felt. And I can feel it break up under as I'm going.
David, I noticed you're just holding the hammers with your fingers. Is that traditionally what you do, or is that just a shortcut versus a voicing block for tonight?
So I'm using this little piece right here to brace the hammers as my quote unquote voicing block. But no, you're right. I hold them in place. That way, if I do a side blow accidentally, I'm not hurting the flange pinning. Plus, I really want to give you a show in case I accidentally puncture myself. You're going to get to see that live. So it's just best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's what was going through my mind. So we don't want to see red hammers.
I guess if you puncture yourself, it's a different type of voicing. It's when you yell out.
I can hear it.
Definitely.
You got it. Yeah. So by the way, just so you guys know, I'm really not liking my choice in this voicing block, because a traditional voicing block would sit down right in here and would sit down onto the back end of those keys. Right here, I have this flex that I'm not a fan of, and a real voicing block, if I had one handy, would sit right down in here, and then it would just kind of, it would be really firm and really secure.
Oh, I didn't see that. What do you call that?
Yeah. So this is, for those watching.
What do you have under there?
This is just nothing that I would necessarily recommend. This is just something that I had that I can at least give some kind of voicing to, or excuse me, block. And so I'm just laying that down there just to kind of give me some amount of stability. If I didn't do that, I'd be.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's what I thought you were doing. We're putting it right on the rail. But okay, got it.
So yeah, this disperses that that weight and energy right there. So I'm just going through. Promise the next time I do a grand voicing, the next time I do it, we'll have that voicing block so you can really see But I do recommend them. They're not very expensive. A lot of times people will make them. I don't know. You tell me. There's this. Do I make one and I carve it out and give it the shape, or do I just go and spend the 15 or 20 bucks and have Shaft do it? That's the question. For me, I'm one of those people that like I get swamped with tasks and I add those tasks to myself. So whenever I can like spend a little bit of money and eliminate a task, I'm doing it.
Time is money. So yeah, I'd buy
Time
it.
is money. Exactly. So, but a lot of people say $30, $20 for a block of wood. I'm like, yeah. If I had to go to Home Depot, if I had to go and run it through a table saw, and if I had to go code it out and add a felt, like Robert said, time is money. Time is money. Gas ain't cheap. So yeah, I'm literally feeling that break apart as I'm going through it. I see a lot of first-time technicians that they kind of like are going for it, but kind of not really. They're just, again, I'm using broad strokes, but a lot of times I see technicians they don't really go for it, and I do agree with that to a point. You want to be really careful not to go too much too soon, but that's why I like to do these layers of voicing. Whoa, you almost got to see me get it. All right, let us see what kind of sound we got. So again, we've done the three of kind of my favorite needling techniques. First being the soft pedal voicing straight down in between the string indentations with a needle. That needle is usually poking out. Usually have it poking out that far. What is that? Just shy. Should be just shy of 1/4 inch. I might not all the way go. Might not go down all the way to that full 1/4 inch with my puncture, but I usually have it sticking out about 1/4 inch. So we've done that as our first voicing technique or needling technique. The next thing we did is we did that angel shot voicing where we come at that roughly 45 and go towards the tail end of that string indentation and hit it towards the tail of the piano. And now we've finally gone and did our shallow needling technique all over the kind of the crown of the and surface of the hammer. So here I've not done it. Here I've not done it. I love that sound though. But now my E stands out like a sore thumb. Can you hear that? The difference? It's probably not coming through perfect on. So, what do you think about that? Does that make total sense before we kind of move to that next portion of it? And again, this is that octave. By the way, when you are working on the needling and voicing down, this octave right here, this is what C5 through C6. This area is really important to keep protected. Because this is where that right hand stays and they want to be able to have a nice presence of sound. So be really careful not to overdo it too soon right here. With the bass, I'm very careful here too because I don't want to kill too much of that big bass rumbling sound. And so it's funny because as I'm saying it, I'm also like, oh yeah, and then the high treble, be careful here too because you don't want to eliminate too much. And then in here, so maybe our technician was right. You kind of tread lightly, go slowly, go do one thing at a time. I have found that starting out with that soft pedal voicing, it's hard to go wrong with that as a starter. Again, doing that first gives you an idea of how well these hammers are going to respond. You may decide, hey, I'm liking what this soft pedal needling voicing technique is giving me, I'm going to go ahead and do a 3 needle on that. I'm trying to get this. Again, pretend there's 3 needles. I might do that 3 needle right in between the strike point. It should be right in between the string grooves are, and then go through that. And then just see how that goes. If you're like, no, I still want to do more, go ahead and hit that angel shot voicing. And then finally, if you're like, I'm still not loving the sound, then we can go into that shallow needling right here. Well, I'm not. It's watching my face. That's what it's doing. I should just go like that. So those are the 3. Again, we're trying to give you tools to use. Those are 3 simple tools to kind of play around with as you figure out what you want your pianos to sound like with your customers. Oh, that's so much better. So much better. And but now what you're going to find is now I'm just like, this other part is driving me bonkers. Questions so far? As I take a big chug of my gorgeous blue drink.
You shaped the hammers before you did this. Would there be a difference if you voiced and then shaped afterwards?
Yeah. So typically, best case scenario, in a perfect world, you'd have all the time, the customer would have all the money to go ahead and throw at their piano, to go ahead and do this kind of work. So you would go ahead and maybe do some kind of a strapping or a surfacing of the hammer, or reshaping of the hammer to get the tone that you want, or to kill some of the nasaliness. Depending on the shape of your hammer, if it's at a nice shape, you can see this is like that ideal shape, especially right there in the base. It's kind of that pear shape. See that? It's not just this bulbousy round shape, but it has a nice shape to it to really give us a good tone. Not all pianos are going to have such a nice hammer, a shape to it. And so you're going to have to decide with your customer, hey, first and foremost, do you want me to surface and reshape these hammers? Most people are like, no, I just want it to be, just make it better. And so then you're going to have to go through and do stuff like what we've done right here. So I think it's important to clarify what I'm showing you is more the things that you're going to do on your everyday. If this is my piano, like this piano is my piano, I get to do what I want to it. And in this case, I wanted to surface the hammers, get them back to a good shape, get some of the big string grooves out, and have like a blank slate to work with. Then I throw it back in the piano, play it. I'm like, you know what? I still don't like the sound. Now I'm going to do some of that needling. Does that make sense, Justin? So like with your piano, I would highly recommend you do a light surfacing and shaping of the hammers before you do this, because it might eliminate some of the issues that you're having with the piano and the sound right there.
Okay.
Good questions. Yeah, I do think that is important to show. So the things that I'm showing you are by no means things that I've come up with. It's things that I've learned from my mentors, and they learned from their mentors, and we kind of just pass it down. I was fortunate over the last 25 years to work with some really awesome mentors, and I don't know where they got some of the stuff that they showed me. And some of the stuff that they did show me, I've, in the last however many years, decided, you know, I don't like that, I like this over here. So you get to decide what from what I'm showing you, you're going to take and run with, and what you can, you know, you're going to leave on the table. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So let's go ahead and start. We're going back and doing the same thing. So now we're off to this section of the piano, this area right here. It's a very important section of the piano, and we want to get just right. I'm going to start with that same thing. I'm going to go a straight down puncture right in between string grooves, or in this instance, with string indentations. And one of the next videos, I do want to go over the hammer surfacing, so we might be doing some of that next week to just show you some of those techniques, because you're going to have that coming up, Justin, with your nice new piano, and I want you to feel good about that. So again, straight down. going through. I like to do this in kind of sections, in the sense of like giving myself a break. I think Jacob and I were talking about it in one of these last ones, where it's like it really does wear on you. You're just your arm starts to just get fatigued right here, because it's not only the pressing down of it, but you're also like, I need to press down just right in between the string groove and not break a needle, not puncture myself. And all of that is happening at once. So your muscle and your arms are usually like tensing up. And so you're going to find that it's kind of nice to take a little bit of a break. And so some questions that we get asked are like, well, would you do this all in a standard service call? This would probably take an extra half an hour of work, maybe an hour, depending on how long it's, how fast you are. So I would usually charge. I would usually charge when it's something like this. As you can see, I wasn't holding the hammer. So that's kind of what can happen is, if you're not holding the hammer, just kind of going at it, you can kind of break like that. Plus, when you hold the hammer, when you go to lift the needle, the hammer stays in place. Was there a question there, Stacy? Sorry.
I had a question, since this is more of a preference with the owner.
Yeah.
How much do you involve them? If you're just going to do a regulation, it's the aftertouch, it's the feel, but this is like, do you bring them back in? Okay, here's before, here's after. What do you think about this? Do you involve them in the process along the way?
Yeah, so I would usually not go into any of this unless I sit down and play the piano, and two things. One, the customer brings it to my attention how much they don't like the sound. Or two, how bright and abrasive the sound is. I will bring it up, and I will do it in a delicate way. Because like you said, Robert, I kind of like that sound. That's what you said, and that is the case half the time. sometimes less, sometimes more, but a lot of times they're like, no, I fully love the sound of what it is. So I want to be careful how I present. Do you want me to change the sound of your piano? Hey, your piano sounds really bad and really bright and harsh, and it's probably not very pleasant to play. Not that anybody would say that, but you have to be careful that what you say doesn't come across like that. So I usually just say, hey, Mrs. Smith, I was playing your piano. It's on the brighter side. It has more of an edgier, sharper sound. Do you like that? Yes, I love that. I play so many other pianos and they're dead and they're dull sounding. I love my piano. I'm like, that's great. That is great. I just wanted to ask, if it ever gets to the point where it's too bright, too intense, let me know and we can soften it down for you. Oh, I never knew that was possible. Yep, we can do it. Cool. Hey, Mrs. Smith, your piano's got a brighter, more pointed, edgier sound. Do you like that? No, it never used to be like that. I wish it would go, that sound could go away. Perfect. I can make it go away. We'll make it rounded, make it soft, and make it more pleasant. So that's how I approach it. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my soft pedal, not my soft pedal, my angel shot voicing, going at the back end of those string grooves. You can see right there, I'm going at that 45. Now, I know that just from feeling how dense these hammers are right here, I didn't test it in between doing this process and my soft pedal voicing. Usually I would, but I'm like, no, I know it's going to need at least this. That being said, I am going to test it before I go and do that final kind of surface area needling with that sugar coater or salt. I don't remember what they call it. I think they call it sugar coating. So again, I'm in the string groove at the very tail end of it, going back towards the tail at about that 45. And it's supposed to, in theory and practically, because we do it all the time, it is able to take away that kind of attack without taking away the power. And that's why I like this, is we're able to take away some of that intense attack, but keep the power there.
Hopefully he'll be back. Camera just died. I hope his battery didn't die. Yeah, it was sounding great. Oh, thanks for sharing that link, Robert. That's great.
It is called a sugar coder.
Yeah, sugar coating.
Yeah.
Let me know. What'd you say, Stacy?
We lost you for
What'd
a
you
sec,
say?
but you're back.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was just saying, I've heard it being called like the salt and pepper. Also, people call me sugar coating. I kind of like sugar coating because I'm a big fan of sugar. To my detriment. So I'm just going through. Again, I like to do that 12 times. This is where I'm getting kind of. This is where that fatigue starts to set in with this guy. So I'm really holding down, as you can see, with one hand with the hammers, and I'm holding the tool and puncturing it. And I am putting some pressure on it for sure. And it's definitely getting kind of difficult as you go through. But that right there, I was like almost snagged myself right there at the very last bit. So we were close. We were close, but no cigar. I really like that. So that's really kind of where I would leave it. Back to Robert's question, how much would I involve the customer in that? I would kind of involve them throughout that whole process. So I would be like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of voicing. I'm going to do the soft pedal voicing and do kind of different phases. I'm going to have you come in and listen to each one. Some customers want that, but a lot of them will say, hey, you're the expert. Just put it where you think it should be. Perfect. I really like that. That really takes the pressure off, because I'm like, hey, I like more warmer, rich, gentler tone to it, especially for this space. Do you mind if I put it there? Yes. Sounds great. Then this is what I would do. Questions before we sign off? Hopefully this is helpful, kind of going back and re-talk about some of this stuff.
I think of a lot of parallels being a bassoon player, the hammers to a bassoon reed or reeds in general, because we voice, that's what we learn, is where to shave a reed to make it brighter, darker, buzzier or less buzzy. So I try and draw those parallels, trying to figure it out. But yeah, this is a little more to it though than just shaving a reed, but it's very similar.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really, I'm fortunate, I've only ever really worked on piano. So it means I have very focused attention on one instrument. I've done a little bit with guitars, to kind of shape the nut and the bridges and stuff like that. But all my focus has really been on the piano. So I wish I could bring in other examples of like working with horns and reeds and stuff like that.
I will say, Robert, my sons do like saxophone and that sort of thing, and clarinet and those reeds. Yeah. When we started investing in good reeds, it's a huge difference in, like, it just made all the difference in the world. So I totally see that correlation.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, percussionists have mallets, and you have different mallets.
Mm-hmm.
Timpani players have felt mallets, hard rubber mallets, whatever they want to strike to get the kind of tone they want. And so that's what makes me think of the piano felt and how it's personalized, and maybe depending upon the piece that you're playing as well. If you really want to get into the weeds, Some people like to bang things out, and some, if you're playing Bach maybe versus Rachmaninoff, I don't know. I probably overthink it, but really high level players have a different preference for the type of hammer depending upon the piece of music they're playing.
That's very true, actually. Like a jazz pianist would probably really like Yamaha, right? Because they just have that like very clear, bright, jazzy kind of sound type of thing.
Yeah.
So I could totally see that.
Well, in the Van Cliburn competition, they'll put two pianos on stage. All right, pick one. And it's 50-50. Some of the, just depending upon what's in their repertoire. I don't know. That's just a thought.
Robert, I hope you're available on Wednesday, because on Wednesday I'm literally going to take this piano and do the ultimate technician fail and pull the action out and break some hammers. And we're going to go ahead and fix some hammers, broken shanks. So hopefully I'm going to have 3 different types of breaks that are typical in the grand. And then maybe on Friday we can do the shank breaks on an upright, what we typically see and how to fix those. So I was thinking about doing it right now. We'll break them together on camera so we can
That sounds
have
fun.
some fun with it. So we'll break some stuff on Wednesday.
I'm into that. Not by choice.
I almost broke one the other day, and I was thinking of our class, and I was like, okay, yeah, I had a tool sitting on one of the keys in the center, and I was pulling it out, and sure enough, I'm like, oh, and I grabbed it just as it was about to break off. So luckily nothing happened, but it does happen. And then we as technicians just like, So we're going to break some stuff. Stay tuned. I will see you guys on Wednesday. Justin, when do you get your piano?
Friday morning.
Cool.
So
next week.
What kind?
Howard, 5'8" grand.
Nice.
Wow. This is going to be great. It's going to be great.
I'm so excited.
All right. I'll see you all on Wednesday. I'm going down to like 1%. Cheers. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye.